Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Batman Arkham Origins New Game Plus video walkthrough. We are in the Gotham Merchant Bank and we're disrupting that sensor up there so we can hack this door to the bank access. So we're definitely making progress through the game at this point. We're going to be moving on to Sionis Industries next. And there's a couple of revelations coming up which you're either going to see coming or you're not. It is kind of obvious when they start putting forward some of the evidence, but it's still an interesting twist. And the game is filled with a handful of moments that are pretty damn awesome. And there's a very dark edge to this one that the other two didn't have as much, and I really like that mature tilt, because I'm all for, you know, mature storytelling. And like I think a lot of stories are intentionally vague when it comes to, you know, some of the more serious notions, so that they can have a clearer transparency with the market, so that they can appeal to more people. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. I understand it from a marketing position and from a financial position, because they want more people to buy their stuff. But I like the ones that aren't afraid to do things differently. And a good example of this is Spec Ops The Line. Spec Ops The Line is one of those games that has a couple of moments in it where you just don't expect it to go as dark as it does. And I don't want every game to be that dark, but the fact that that one dared to be, I think is really empowering and really interesting too. I think it's ballsy, and I like balls. I've mentioned this before. I'm quite the ball lover, which is always taken out of context and turned into something very sordid and funny, but it is what it is. This room, however, is filled with dudes, but we've got this new toy, and this remote claw is so much fun. Like, I don't even want to kill these people, I just want to shit them up, and that's exactly what it does. Just sending fire extinguishers at them, sending friends at them, sending them over balconies. It's a lot of fun. It's worth the price of admission alone. I'm a big fan of this tool, and you'll notice as well, in some instances, you can make people get pulled off of ledges if you do it correctly, which is really cool, because it makes this one of the most powerful gadgets on the game. But I want to talk about some things in the Arkham universe that are perhaps a little bit lacking in this one. So my favourite game is Arkham Asylum, in the Arkham series, sorry. I love it. I think it is a testament to extremely well-crafted, well-paced, and fully realised game design. I say this because I think the Asylum was well utilised. You retread steps, but you never felt like you were backtracking, because it was always expanding, it was always changing, and it was always different. I think they used it so well and gave it so much of an allure that it felt like the Asylum was a character in and of itself. Much like Rapture was to Bioshock, it was this entity that was just heightening everything that was happening. And a lot of this was helped by the audio files that were knocking around, the constant tapes that were playing that were telling you about the criminals and the wardens and the relationships that were happening, and the puzzles that you were solving, and the Arkham mysteries. And it all came together and converged into what is just one of the most enjoyable and purest comic book action games I've ever played. I think it's the best comic book game that's ever existed. A lot of people would disagree with that, and that's fine, but to me, it's flawless in its execution, and this is a game I've played a lot. The second game went out into a big open world approach, which definitely watered down the mastery of the pacing and that linear path, which then became a non-linear path. And a lot of people loved that. I personally didn't. I preferred the structure of Arkham Asylum. But City did a lot of good things. I was overly harsh on City after a while, because I remembered more the bad than the good, which is never something you should try and do with a game that is exceptionally good and better than most other games, even if it does still have problems. But that's one thing that I see that's not really in this game represented at all to what I've seen in what I've come across playing the main game. This is not talking about side quests or looking for it, but the Riddler influence is much lower on this game. You know, it's before he really gave a shit about planting a bunch of Riddler trophies, apparently, because now he's doing little flash drives instead, which I suppose makes sense. You can't just keep having the Riddler tokens. But I was a person who thought that Asylum handled the Riddler stuff and the riddles and the puzzles perfectly. There was enough of them so that you could challenge yourself and keep yourself interested for a decent amount of time and have side distractions, but there was never too many that it got to the point where it turned into a grind. I think City went too far. I think there was far too much of it, and it was far too intentional, so that it wasn't as natural, and it just kind of felt laborious at times, because there were like 440 fucking things to find, which is too many. So this game seems to have simplified it a little bit, which is an improvement, but there are times when you just don't see anything. Like, I think I found one log in my entire time playing the game. And one of the things I liked the most about Asylum was constantly learning about the prisoner interviews and about the different, people in the asylum. And, logically I understand that this place can't be constantly littered with all these, extremely expositionally based pieces of dialogue, because it just doesn't make any sense why that would be there. But at the same time, I really, really liked it. And it's almost like that's been sacrificed for how mouthy the NPCs are, where it's not as hilarious as it was in Arkham City, where everybody talked all the time, constantly. It's still not really enough to give you that much exposition, so I kind of miss that. I kind of miss the enriching of the world through that medium. And the trophies and things of what I've seen are very toned down. There doesn't seem to be any riddles to my knowledge at the moment. There may be, I just haven't found them, but I haven't seen any of that. Or any of the perspective puzzles either, where you try and line up the question marks and things. So, as it stands, I've not seen those at all, and I definitely think that they'll be missed if they're not there. Even if I do admit that City did it too much. But I don't know, it seems interesting. And I suppose the get out clause on this is it was before all that stuff, so that's why it's not there. It's a more, baseline, a rougher edged version of Batman and his caped crusades. But then why does he have gauntlets that turn the game into a trivial smash attack? All the intricacies of the combat, of the puzzle elements, which are, shield guys you need to do a specific move on, knife guys require a specific move. All these different dudes require different things to beat them. And then as soon as you activate those electricity gauntlets, everybody gets beaten by the same move, which is the standard punch. It completely contradicts all the complexity, and I happen to like it, because, all those enemies I've mentioned tend to complicate things and make certain fights really annoying. So now you can just, unleash the electrical gauntlets, which look and feel really satisfying, to win, for lack of a better word. And I noticed in the IGN review that this was one of the things that they picked up on against as a negative towards the game. And where I understand it, I still like the idea of the gloves. I would prefer them if they were built up like Devil Trigger or like the Rage of the Titans bar, where you could kind of hold it and keep it, but it seems like after every fight it goes back down, which I'm not really too understanding of why that is. But when you do get it, it's so empowering, and it's really satisfying against the bosses. I would have probably preferred it just in boss fights only rather than in standard fights, because in the standard fights it's really destructive. But isn't that why we play games, guys? To get strong, to become better and more powerful? Isn't that just one of the parts of progression? I don't know. That's probably a very interesting topic to debate, whether or not there can be, too far on the progression ladder. A good example of this would probably be The Darkness 2, where a lot of the reviewers mentioned that Jackie felt so strong from the beginning that it was almost like a power fantasy in just how powerful he really was. And there wasn't really the progression of, going from, small origins to greatness. There was no, incremental differences. It was just, you are this omnipotent, all-powerful dude, and you just became more powerful the more you played. So very interesting for balance, but balance is often overlooked and neglected, and I think that's a shame. But thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and you take care now.